What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Knicks Recap podcast. I'm your host, Troy, and you could be anywhere in the world this afternoon, but you chose to be here with me, and I really do appreciate that. Chat gang, I see you. Knicks Nation, what is going on? This is a very special episode today because today we are announcing the giveaway winner for the Knicks versus Nuggets game next week. That's right. We gave away 2 tickets. And because of that, we're going to be able to give it away to a very lucky member of the channel a little bit later on to the show. I promise you, we're going to get there. So if you're waiting for that news or information, just hang on there because we're going to be talking about it a little bit later on in the show. But before we get started and talk about all of the great topics that we have to discuss for today's show, you know what I got to say, guys. We are on a mission right now to try to reach 25,000 subscribers. And we could really use your support. If you enjoy daily Knicks content like this, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button because it could really support all the great content that we're creating for you. But without further ado, let's jump into today's show because we have a lot of Knicks topics to discuss today. We have something to discuss that I thought we were never going to be able to do. 50 plus years, but it's finally here. The Knicks have an all-star starting duo in Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about Tom Thibodeau, who is highly upset right now with the officiating going on in the league. He called out the referees, and not only that, get this, guys, he tells the refs to do their job because clearly they're not doing that. We're also going to take a look at Karl-Anthony Towns, what he said about playing for the Knicks this year, how it's different than his experience with Minnesota, and a couple of other things he said about New York and this particular season. But, we're also going to be talking about Isaiah Stewart because one NBA insider with The Athletic has been pushing this trade for New York for some time now. And right now might be the perfect time for New York to execute that move. But before we talk about any of those topics, as you guys see in the thumbnail, we are going to be talking about and starting with Jericho Sims. A trade is coming right now with Jericho Sims. With a fully healthy Knicks roster, Sims has no role on this team. And multiple NBA insiders have already confirmed that teams are contacting the Knicks right now for the availability of Jericho Sims and Mitchell Robinson to see if they can get either one of them via trade. But if you're reading the reports and looking at everything that we've been releasing over the last few days, the Knicks seem very content in waiting for Mitchell Robinson to return. So it doesn't look like they're racing to trade him. If the Knicks want to make a trade that holds on to their core, doesn't affect their core, but still allows them to make another move, that trade needs to be moving Jericho Sims. And according to a recent report that we have here today, these reports indicate that the Knicks are still actively taking trade calls about Jericho Sims, basically indicating that at some point very soon, Sims is going to be traded. We're going to break down all of these latest reports today. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and make sure you have notifications turned on. So that way, anytime we drop new content, you get notified. And now, let's get started. Update on Jericho Sims and the trade for New York and how that's going to look like. When the Knicks are at full strength, when the Knicks are looking like their best team, I don't think Jericho Sims is going to have a spot on this roster. Take a look at this team right now. The New York Knicks are 3rd in the Eastern Conference. We're no slouch, and honestly, everybody in the league, whether you believe it or not, thinks the Knicks are contenders. With Jericho Sims, we don't really see him having a role on this team. Ever since Precious Achiuwa came back, Jericho Sims has been situational. Now, I am going to admit he did start a few games when Karl-Anthony Towns was out, but that was only because we had a situation that we needed to address. Other than that, he would have never seen any time. And as we continue to get healthy and we get Mitchell Robinson back eventually, he's definitely not going to see any time. Reports indicated before, and we reported on it a couple of days ago, that Jericho Sims would be open to having more opportunities to play and showcase his abilities. I can tell you something for certain. Staying on this Knicks team, he is never going to have that opportunity. He's not going to have that ability because he's just not going to get the playing time. So the Knicks would be better off trading him to another team, freeing up a roster spot, and giving that spot to somebody else, a player that Tom Thibodeau trusts. And according to these recent reports from NBA Insider with SNY Ian Begley, he's saying exactly that. Right now, as we are speaking, the Knicks are on the phone, on the lines, taking Jericho Sims trade offers, trying to understand what trade they should make to get Sims on another team. Let's break down these latest reports that we have here from Ian Begley. According to Ian Begley, the Knicks continue to listen to trade offers for Jericho Sims ahead of the February 6th trade deadline. This is his exact quote. I think they'll continue to listen on Jericho Sims up until the trade deadline. I don't know when. I can't tell you right now if a deal is definitely going to happen. But just the way things have trended to this point, I would be a little surprised if nothing happened. Begley continues here by stating, but we see that sometimes with the teams and players where the whole world thinks a deal is going to happen just because of various circumstances, and then it kind of fizzles out. But I do think that we're still at a point here, to quote Brian Windhorst, I think we'll still be in the deal zone for a while on Jericho Sims. I haven't heard anything otherwise that leads me to believe anything else. So Ian Begley, again, is confirming here that right now, New York is open and actively taking trade calls on Jericho Sims. And again, that indicates that he has played his final games with New York. He is not going to be back. Now, there's a number of reasons why he's not going to be back. I've broken it down a number of times. Playing time is one of them. Not really having Tom Thibodeau's trust. Riding the bench. Situational. That I mentioned he's an expiring as well, too. So if you really don't do anything with him now, he's going to walk later. You need to trade him now. It makes sense to trade him now. But you might be asking yourself, okay, Troy, you got me. I buy in. The Knicks need to make this trade. What are they getting for Jericho Sims? I would pray that Leon Rose is smart enough as a business individual that can fleece a team to give them back a player for Sims. But I don't think he's that lucky. Unfortunately, right now, the value for Sims is 1 second-round pick. Maybe they get multiple second-round picks, but right now it's looking like 1. But here's the thing. It's not so much of what that Jericho Sims trade does for New York. Because if they just trade it for 1 second-round pick, that honestly does nothing for us. It gives us more assets, but nothing else. Or so it seems like if you're just taking a look at the trade and the things that we get back. How about the things that we get access to? Once you trade Sims, you get a roster spot. Once you trade Sims, you get access to more cap space. And also, we know come late February, early March, the Knicks are going to have access to sign another player to that 15th roster spot. So that opens up 2 roster spots. The Knicks can do multiple things to address this team, get talent on this roster, especially talent that Tom Thibodeau trusts. And here's exactly how they're going to do it. They're not going to rush to make any deal. Right now, they are waiting for Mitchell Robinson to see if he's going to be 100% healthy, to know what his status is. And the more they wait, the more clarity they get. So if they're going to make that trade for Jericho Sims, it's likely going to happen very close to the trade deadline, not right now. And the longer you wait, a team might get even more desperate, and who knows what they might give you for Jericho Sims on February 5th versus January 24th. We have to think about that, and I know the Knicks are thinking about that in any type of trade that they're going to go after. Another thing else as well, too, with the Jericho Sims situation, Mitchell Robinson and his health plays a key factor here. If they believe that Robinson might not be the best starting center for us, or maybe they do believe that Robinson's going to come back, he's going to be fully healthy, and he knows that he's going to play a prominent piece and a prominent player off this bench. He's going to play significant minutes off the bench for New York. Then at that point, that tells New York to go off of Jericho Sims, trade him to another team, and see what they can get for him. But like I said, they're going to wait before they make that deal, because waiting will likely get you more assets. And with Sims right now, the reason that he was playing some of those games, starting some of those games, was to increase his trade value. And I hope the Knicks were able to do that. Once they move on from him, if they look at the buyout market, they're going to look at a number of different candidates. And I promise you, as much as people want to see the Knicks go to Westchester and sign a number of players from there, and trust me, I'm one of those players. You see the number of videos I dropped? Moses Brown, Chuma Okeke, TJ Warren. Trust me when I say I want the Knicks to go to Westchester as badly as anybody else, but they're not going to rush to do that. They're going to look at the buyout market first because they don't know who's going to end up being there. It might be a player that nobody expected, and it's a Tom Thibodeau player. If they find that guy, that player's getting signed. But if that doesn't happen, then they're going to go to Westchester, and they're likely going to call up TJ Warren. The other player, if they're looking to add another player after trading Sims, is either going to be Moses Brown or Chuma Okeke. And in my opinion, right now, if they're able to make a trade and get off of Sims, they believe Robinson's going to come back and play consistently, I'm signing TJ and I'm signing Chuma because they're athletic. They're wings in this league. They also can defend, they can score, and when you're speaking about TJ Warren, he's the best scorer in the G League. When you're speaking about Chuma, he is basically Josh Hart light if you have him on the Knicks bench. Why do I say that? Let's see. He's basically a walking triple-double every single game in the G League. Does he steal the ball? Yes. Does he play good defense? Yes. Is he 3-and-D? Yes. Those are the things that he can offer this team if New York adds him. And by the way, all of those characteristics and traits, they fit exactly what Tom Thibodeau is looking for in a player. Not only that, he has NBA level experience. So he's not a rookie. He's not a veteran in terms of Chuma. He's not a veteran, but he has years underneath his belt. He has years underneath his belt. Tom Thibodeau should trust him. With TJ Warren, he's already a vet. So it already makes sense to call him up, use that roster spot, and play him off the bench. But I want to make sure something is very clear here. The Knicks can do all of these moves. They can trade Sims for the second-round pick, open up a roster spot, look at the buyout market, look at the Westchester Knicks, make the move necessary. But there is one person that's basically going to detail or dictate what's going to happen moving forward. And that's Tom Thibodeau. How is he going to use the talent once we get it on this team? Is he going to expand the rotation? Is he sometimes going to allow us to see what a TJ Warren bench-led squad looks like, where TJ is the one leading that five-man off the bench, where he's getting most of those opportunities? Because you can't shut off or shut down TJ and what he's good at once you call him up to the NBA level. You have to maximize what he's good at, and a good coach is going to do that. Will Tom Thibodeau and this Knicks coaching staff be able to bring it out of New York? That's something I don't know yet. Will he be able to bring it out of TJ or Chuma or whoever we add to this team? That's something still up in the air. But you got to figure, if Tom Thibodeau has the players on his roster that he trusts, that actually can play a role for him, that add to the depth, why wouldn't he play them? You're telling me if he has all of those players, he's still going to go in an 8-man rotation? I think if he does that and ignores the clear level of talent that they upgraded, I think that might be an axe in his grave moving forward. It might not look good on Tom Thibodeau. So everybody in my comments saying, fire Thibs, fire Thibs. If he doesn't utilize talent after the Knicks give him more talent, that might be a case for you guys to say, fire Thibs, because he's not utilizing who the Knicks are giving him. I just want to put it out there, but that's where we stand right now on Jericho Sims. It's very, very clear. It's not if they're going to trade Jericho Sims. It's when. Jericho Sims will be traded before the February 6th trade deadline. More than anything else, whether Robinson is traded or not, whether that actually happens or not, I'm not sure about that. But one thing I am more positive on than anything else is that Sims will not be a Knick after February 6th. The Knicks will make a lower level trade to help this team improve this roster and do it at a low cost. Why do I say that? Let's see. Who's the president of the Knicks? Oh, yeah, Leon Rose. What does he normally do? Oh, yeah, he normally makes good low-cost maneuvers. What do the Knicks need right now? Talent at a low cost that doesn't give away all our assets and doesn't break the bank. Let's go. That equals Leon Rose. And that's why I'm expecting big things. And I do anticipate that Rose will do a lot for this Knicks team moving forward. Every single trade deadline, he has made the meaningful move to make this roster better. You're telling me now, this time around, he's not going to do it again? I'm sorry. That just doesn't sound like Leon Rose. Again, folks, it's not if the Knicks will make a trade. It's when. And it's not if the Knicks will trade Jericho Sims. It's when. Let me know how you feel about that in the comment section below, guys. I really want to hear from you. Do you want the Knicks to trade Jericho Sims? Do you think he has a future on this team? Or maybe you want the Knicks to hold on to him because you see him as a very, very valuable insurance piece. Either way, let me know in the comments whether you're watching this live or you're watching this on the playback. Let me know because I really want to hear from you guys in the comments below. But before we jump into the chat, gang, hear what you guys have to say, get your takes. You know I have to go to something else, right? You know I have to go to another topic here, and it was something that made me so extremely hyped. I wish the news didn't come out so late last night. If it didn't, I probably wouldn't have given you guys either a live at that point or maybe drop the video instantly, but I couldn't do that. But I think it's time to talk about it. The Knicks just made history. History in my lifetime, 1975. Clyde Frazier, Earl the Pearl Monroe. That was the last time the Knicks had two starting all-stars. 50 years ago. Half a century. Fast forward to today. The Knicks just did it again. Took the Knicks half a century, ladies and gentlemen, but we did it. What a moment. Look at that graphic on the left. Look at it. Clyde and Brunson. Cat and Pearl. This is what we waited for. This is what we were robbed of. The NBA didn't want to see it. They didn't want to see it, ladies and gentlemen. They didn't want to give it to us. But shout out to you. Shout out to Knicks Nation. Shout out to New York because we didn't leave it up to them. We didn't. We left it up to our play. We left it up to New York and we voted. We made sure everybody saw the lethal duo that Cat and Jalen Brunson is. And when you're able to do that, great things can happen. 50 years, 50 years, 50 years, and we are here, two All-Stars again, and I am so happy to see it. Give me a second, guys. I'm losing my voice again, of course, going against doctor's orders, but I don't care. I'm happy for the All-Stars. Give me a second, guys. Just look at this great graphic for a second. Excuse me, guys. I also got to look at the stats here as well, too. Unfortunately, my YouTube doesn't show me exactly everybody who's on the stream. I hate when it does that. But we're going to push forward here, and I appreciate you guys. But looking at this graphic again, my goodness, guys, I cannot tell you how hype I was watching TNT last night. I was waiting, probably like everybody else, waiting like you guys. They better call Brunson. They better call Cat. They better be starters. I was cursing at my TV probably for a good 5 to 10 minutes. And you know how they talk between segments? They're talking between segments. Announce the names. I don't care who you think should get it, who you believe will get it. Tell me who my starters are. And eventually they got there and they broke the news, and everybody in New York, I think collectively, we all celebrated. We knew we needed this. We knew we deserved this. And did anybody else know? Looking at that starters, are there any other players in the same team among the starters? Because I think that's only exclusive to Cat and Jalen Brunson. I'm just saying, You can say what you want to say, but to me, that's a flex that nobody else is talking about. The NBA did not want this. They did not want us to do this. Too bad. Too bad. We got it. This is what you get when you keep on saying New York doesn't vote enough. We didn't vote enough. We didn't vote enough. You're saying it now? I don't think you're saying anything now. And shout out to the other things that happened as well, too, because some other things were happening with the voting that we should talk about. Steph Bondi, shout out to him as well, too, was great talking about this. He said, perhaps the most impressive Knicks showing of all-star voting. Josh Hart received 18 player votes, tying Tyrese Halliburton, Tyler Hero, Derek White for 10th among East backcourt players, and all-star voting results among Eastern Conference guards. Jalen Brunson was third in fan voting, behind Ball and Mitchell. Love Ball. What an embarrassment. Second in player voting, that makes sense, behind Mitchell, and second in media voting, behind Mitchell. You see, that makes sense. Whatever the fans were thinking at some point, putting Ball in there, no idea what they were thinking about. But you know what? I don't have to worry about it anymore because we don't have to think about him. Right now, we're thinking about our starters, our all-stars. How about Jalen Brunson doing it again? Jalen Brunson, back-to-back years, all-stars. Doing it on what franchise again? Oh, yeah, doing on the Knicks. Was he an all-star for the Dallas Mavericks at any point in time in his career? Let me think about that. No, not at all. The Knicks do this. We do this. Was Cat a starter in the West? Did he ever start? Ever? In his entire career? No. Is he doing it right now in the East for the Knicks? Oh, he is? We're different in New York. We're different. Josh Hart, by the way, if I could call it, if I could have my way, he would be a reserve. Josh Hart is phenomenal. And the players showed you that. The players are voting for Josh Hart. If the players are voting for Hart, that shows you where he is, where he ranks among some of the elite guards in the league right now. Derek White, Tyrese Halliburton, he's tied them. He's tied them. That goes to show you what he means to the players in the league. Quick shout out to everybody that we're seeing here. Shout out to Karl-Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson, and the fact that 50 years now down the road, we finally have two more all-stars to talk about. Give me a second, guys. I'm doing this stream a little bit sick here today, but I didn't want to stop doing the stream. I knew I needed to do it, so. Excuse me. Let me drink a little bit of water here for a second. Might be like this all stream long. I apologize, but this is how we're going to go with it. But like I said, guys, that's where we are right now with the Knicks and the all-star situation. But I cannot believe it. It finally happened. 50 years in the making. Clyde and Pearl, Cat and JB. History made. What a moment. I'm just so happy. I'm just so happy. And I can't hide it. From ear to ear, I haven't stopped smiling. I woke up smiling. I can't help it. The Knicks, 2 all-star selections, starters, JB and Cat. They deserve it. They got it. Let's go, New York, baby. Let's go, Knicks. We're going to go to the chat, gang, real quick. Get your comments. And then right after that, we're going to go to some reports indicating and pushing the Knicks to potentially trade for Isaiah Stewart. We're going to talk about that. Hang on for a second, though. Let's go to the chat, gang. Nelson says, hold on. You need to ask for a salute for Jalen Brunson. I forgot. My good. Where's my manners? Where are my manners? Oh, my goodness. My manners. Guys, if you're watching this stream, watching this clip, whatever the case may be, Stop what you're doing right now. Salute the captain. Two-time All-Star, JB. Let's go. And also, give some thumbs ups for my guy, Karl-Anthony Towns. Rest that sprained thumb, my guy. Don't participate in any three-point shooting contest. Just do your best to heal. We're thinking about you, Cat. So happy you're an all-star, though. But yeah, where are my manners? Can't believe I didn't salute the captain. 100% right on that. Thanks for the call out on that one. Bodega says, thank Thibs for creating Knick All-Stars almost every season. Hey, listen, Tom Thibodeau and players that play for him, they do get a lot of great play out of themselves. They do raise their game. And yes, you can't say it. They can become all-stars. Nostalgia Nick says, MVP Cat. Brooklyn Knicks fan says, Brooklyn Knicks fan says, Thibs wins second round only. Okay. The Prince says, yeah, because he rides his players into injuries. My goodness. Dovid says, Brunson and Towns deserved it. Two of them all-star starters. And Hart for the all-star reserve. Make it 3. I hope they make it 3. Honestly speaking, I think Hart deserves it. I mean, he's a walking triple-double. He can easily get you a double-double without points. Talk about the players in the league right now that can get you double-doubles easily without points. Josh Hart can do that nightly. You can bet on Josh Hart as a double-double nightly. You don't have to say what the double-double is. He's just going to get it for you regardless of what it is. Let's see here. Bodega says, Knicks haven't gotten a ring in over 50 years. Thibs has a smell in the playoffs every season. Listen, I think there are good things and bad things to Tom Thibodeau, and I think some of the bad things I've already highlighted. The fact that he plays his starters a lot, doesn't develop the second unit, takes a long time to make adjustments, and when he does make adjustments, sometimes he's late. And I think there is something to be said that he's only been to the second round with this team, and if he does it again this year, a lot of eyebrows are going to be looking at him, raised at him, and questioning what he's doing with this team. So I think that's fair. It's also fair to talk about that the Knicks have been the best version of themselves since Tom Thibodeau has taken over. We had no hopes of a playoff tour even before Tom Thibodeau came here. And I'm old enough to remember all of the other coaches that we went through. We went through probably, I don't know, 5, 6 head coaches before we found a consistent coach in Tom Thibodeau. And I can't tell you how much I wanted the consistency. But I knew with the consistency, there was going to be issues. Because if something doesn't work with that coach, it's likely always not going to work as long as you have him. So the Knicks' defensive issues from the 3, I knew it was going to be an issue. I knew it was going to be an issue for a while because Tom Thibodeau packs the paint with defense. He doesn't always go out to defend the three-point line. It's been that way for years. So seeing it with this roster now, am I surprised? No, I don't like it. I don't want to see it because we have some of the best perimeter defenders in the game in OG, Mikal, and Josh, but we still see it because that's the way Tom Thibodeau wants this team to play defense. The Prince says, feel better, my G. Hey, yo, listen, man, I appreciate you, my guy. I am struggling right now, trying to push through it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get through a couple more comments. Then I'm going to go through the rest of the show, try to get through as many topics as I can. Normally, you guys know I love to stay after and talk to you guys and do these things after the game, but I probably won't be able to do that just because my voice is going away. And I know I have the post-game schedule for tomorrow. I'm hoping I'm able to do that, but if I continue to sound like this, I might have to cancel that as well, too, just because I don't want to give you guys a stream that sounds this poor. I don't think it really makes sense to anybody to do that. So I appreciate you guys. Tony says, Troy, I just got out of the hospital myself. My brother, man, I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm very sorry to hear that. I hope you're feeling better. I hope I don't have to go to the hospital, but it is getting a little bit bad, as you can hear. I'm getting more hoarse as the show goes on. So we're going to take one more comment, and then after that, we're going to jump right back into the show because the next thing that we have to talk about right now is Isaiah Stewart and him potentially being traded to this team. Yes, I know. It sounds crazy, but stay with me here. And we have a ridiculous trade to talk about when it comes to him. Let's see. Michael says, I want a young athletic wing and to use Huckporty at center. Listen, Michael, I appreciate you. I thank you so much for your comment. Let me just say this before we jump into the next topic. And before we jump into the next topic, guys, I'm going to excuse myself for a second, go get some more water because I'm already basically out. And then I'm going to come back, reconvene, and then go to the next topic. But going to Huck Porty, I want to mention this. If the Knicks were utilizing their bench right now, we wouldn't be talking about trades, making this move, buyout market, Westchester. We wouldn't be talking about any of that. The reason we're talking about the Knicks making moves, the Knicks making trades, the Knicks doing this, the Knicks doing that, is because they're not utilizing who they have. If they use Huck Porty, myself nor anybody else would be talking about call up Moses Brown, trade Jericho Sims and get another big in here, or free up a roster spot and look at the buyout market. Nobody would be saying that because you would be utilizing your bench, which is exactly what most Knicks fans, myself included, want you to do. Use the second unit, expand the rotation, play 5 players off of your bench. And as you get healthier, substitute some of those players for the players that you trust, the players that you were waiting for. That is what I want Tom Thibodeau and this Knicks team to do. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen. We know now. We see it now. Tom Thibodeau is okay playing 9. Once Robinson comes back, he'll have 5 starters and 5 legit players off the bench that he trusts that he can play. Will he go 10 at that point? Will he go 5-5 at that point? That is the main question. That's what I'm looking at. That's what I want to see answered. And the only way we get that question answered is by waiting for Mitchell Robinson to return. The only question is, when is he going to return? Is Robinson going to return in middle of January? Excuse me. Is Robinson going to return in the middle of February, end of February, early March, late March? We really don't know. And because we don't know, that makes the Knicks right now in a situation where they really have to be patient, see all the offers they have on the table, and make sure they're making the right move for the franchise moving forward. Jericho Sims, he's likely out. Mitchell Robinson, he's likely going to stay until the Knicks have more clarity on his health. But Huck Porty, I agree with you. He should be used right now because developing him makes a lot of sense. Right now, guys, give me one quick second. I'm just going to go clear my throat, get some more water, try to get some honey, and I'm going to come back in like 25 seconds, and we're going to go to the next topic. In that meanwhile, you can take a look at this great graphic. I love to see it. Our all-stars on the screen. I appreciate you. Give me 1 second, my guys. All right, guys, I'm back. I cleared my throat, did everything I needed to do. Just give me a quick second to see what we're working with here. Like I said, YouTube stole my statistics, so I don't even know how many people we have in the chat. But let me say this for everybody who is in the chat, who is in the stream, who's watching. If you guys could do me the biggest favor of all, it'd be great if you could smash that like button. It would be great if you're not already subscribed to the channel to subscribe, because again, that 25K, I can feel it. We are so close, and you guys can really help us get there. But right now, let's go into the next topic, and let's talk about the next thing that we have to discuss today. Because like I said, we have a lot of topics, and I want to make sure we cover all of them. As I mentioned earlier on, Jericho Sims is likely gone from this team. He's likely going to be traded. But that doesn't mean that's the only trade the Knicks are going to make. Like I said before, Mitchell Robinson is still a question mark. We don't know when he's going to return, and when he does return, how is he going to look? The Knicks are watching him very carefully. If they believe he will not look like the same player when he eventually returns, then they will make a move. They will trade him and try to get another player on this team. Now, there are a number of players that the Knicks have been linked to since the offseason and really during the season. But one NBA insider with The Athletic has been pushing a ridiculous move, a trade for the Knicks to go after Detroit Pistons center Isaiah Stewart. And it's ridiculous, like I said before. This trade for Isaiah Stewart is a three-team trade. That's right. 3 teams have to get involved in order for the Knicks to pull off this miraculous deal to get Stewart on this roster. Now, the reason that James Edwards from The Athletic has continuously pushed this deal for New York is because he understands the Knicks' weakness, what they need right now, and also how good Stewart is. Right now, if you look at the Knicks roster, we need a legit backup 5 right behind Karl-Anthony Towns. Precious Achiuwa, he can do it well. He can fill in, but he's more of a power forward for this team. And even though Isaiah Stewart is the exact same height as Precious Achiuwa, he is more fit to play center because that's all he does for Detroit. He has defensive instincts as a center. So you want a player like that on this team, a player that can push Precious Achiuwa to his natural position and also still be able to give you some defense at the 5. You can even play Stewart and Towns together because Stewart can hit the 3. So I understand why he's pushing the Knicks to make a trade to get Stewart on this roster. However, the following trade proposal that he's making for the Knicks to do, it is insanity. Ridiculous. I haven't seen it before. Let's go ahead and break down the following trade proposal that James L. Edwards wants the Knicks to make to get Isaiah Stewart on this roster. And after we do that, we're going to break down why he believes this trade can actually happen. Shout out to The Athletic's James L. Edwards for giving us the following information. According to him, the Detroit Pistons and Chicago Bulls helped the Knicks pull off a 3-team trade. In this situation, the Knicks would receive Isaiah Stewart and Torrey Craig. The Pistons would receive Zach LaVine and Precious Achiuwa. And the Bulls would receive Tim Hardaway Jr., Mitchell Robinson, Simone Fontecchio, a 2025 second-round pick from New York via Detroit, a 2026 second-round pick from New York via Detroit, Orlando, or Milwaukee, a 2027 second-round pick from Detroit via New York, a 2028 second-round pick from Detroit via New York. So in this situation, the Knicks are losing Precious Achiuwa, they're losing Mitchell Robinson, and they're losing a handful of second-round picks. But they're also getting Isaiah Stewart and Torrey Craig. This trade here, and while I can understand it, while I know Isaiah Stewart does fit this team, yes, we need more size on this roster, availability on this team, getting somebody that can help this roster at the highest levels. I wouldn't mind doing this trade if I knew that Precious Achiuwa was not going to re-sign with this roster, if I knew the Knicks were not planning to bring him back. If those things were true, I wouldn't mind the Knicks making this trade, because we have to remember, Precious Achiuwa waived his no-trade clause. The Knicks did that for a reason. They anticipated that at the deadline, there might be a trade that comes up that they might want to pull a trigger on. And if you look at Robinson and Achiuwa, and you combine their salaries, it's around $20 million-ish. So if they can get that, and they can put that together, they can really go after any player they want in the league, including a center from Detroit in Isaiah Stewart. The only question is, will that be enough for Detroit to pull that trigger on the deal to give the Knicks Isaiah Stewart? That's the only question here. I don't think so. I think given the way he's been playing lately and everything that he's been doing for Detroit, and when he's been in the lineup for Detroit, they've actually been a better team. His rim protection is very good this year. Another reason why the Knicks could utilize him and make sure we have him as part of this team. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm getting a lot of messages here, and I want to make sure it's not anything too urgent. Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure it wasn't my son's school. Going back to Isaiah Stewart, like I said before, it makes sense for why the Knicks would want to get him on this team. And like I said, this trade package wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if we knew for certain that Achiuwa was not going to return. And with Mitchell Robinson, again, if the Knicks pull off this trade, it tells you that Robinson and his health have gone the other way. He's sidetracked in some way. He had some type of setback, and he's not going to be returning anytime soon. If the Knicks deal Mitchell Robinson, that is absolutely the case because every report has indicated they are waiting for Robinson, waiting to get more clarity on him, his injury, and his return. If they end up trading him before the February 6th trade deadline, then that means the clarity, then that means the clarity that they received means that Mitchell Robinson is not going to be healthy or available either for this season or for when they need him the most. So they have to pull off this trade. Isaiah Stewart, like I said, in terms of rim protection, he is one of the best rim protectors in the game right now, in the league right now this year. Not really for the entire career that he's had, but this year, as he's been playing more center for Detroit, when he's in the game, his rim protection is at the top of the league. He is very, very good. He can bring that to New York, and he can pair that with Karl-Anthony Towns or whoever he's on the floor with. And I think that's a reason why the Knicks might entertain this trade. But it's going to be up to Robinson. It's going to be up to his health and whether or not the Knicks actually make that move. But before I give you more of my take on it and more of my reasoning on why I feel the Knicks might make this trade, let's go ahead and hear why James L. Edwards continues to push this trade to New York and wants them to make this move. Shout out to Edwards for giving us the following information. He states, there's a lot going on here, so stay with me. This trade benefits New York because it gets a very good defender in Stewart, who can play behind Towns and alongside him in certain situations. Last season, Stewart showed the ability to hit the three ball, playing primarily as the power forward. So he adds some versatility offensively if he's able to find his stroke again. Detroit isn't letting him shoot as much from three this season, so I wouldn't read too much into the numbers this year. Stewart, who is only 23 and has been a big part of the Pistons' resurgence this season, is under contract at $15 million per year until the end of the 2027-2028 season. He doesn't have a team option in that final year. He does. He does have a team option in that final year. The Knicks also get to add a veteran wing in Torrey Craig, who has had a solid career as well. New York is getting little production currently from any of its backup wings. Lastly, the Knicks would shed more than $5 million from their payroll in this deal. The reason he's saying that is because Isaiah Stewart makes $15 million. And if you trade away Mitchell Robinson and Precious Achiuwa, that's around $20 million. So they would save $5 million on their cap space there. And since they're only getting Craig and Stewart back, they'll still have access to that 15th roster spot. So eventually, if they want and they want to go out and get another player, they can still do that. And they'll have the money to add that player to this team as quickly as possible. So that would mean a TJ Warren, a Chuma, or maybe even a Moses Brown. They can go quickly to that, or they can go to the buyout market and get somebody there as well too. There are multiple ways the Knicks can actually handle this. I agree with Edwards to an extent that it does make sense for New York to make this move, just given what Stewart could offer to this team if he's healthy, available, and active for this roster, which, by the way, he would be. It's no knock to Mitchell Robinson. It's just availability at this point. He's not available. The Precious move hurts a little bit, I'm not going to lie, because Achiuwa off the bench for New York, he has been a force. So good, so impactful, great on defense. He understands Tom Thibodeau and the way he wants to play as well, too. He's also a native New Yorker. I don't want to get rid of players who want to play for the Knicks and also have roots in New York. So it really pains me. It hurts me to say this, but I would really make this trade if I'm the Knicks because you get a player back in Isaiah Stewart who really is going to help you in your playoff push moving forward, especially if you believe that Mitchell Robinson will not return. Torrey Craig, he's a veteran, he's a wing, and he can help you as well too, especially with shooting. I'm not saying he's a game changer by any means, but this is a trade the Knicks make if they know that Achiuwa is not going to resign and also that Mitchell Robinson either doesn't look like the same player or his return date got pushed back again or eventually when he does return, it's going to be too late and he's not going to be able to help the Knicks. Those are the reasons why the Knicks are likely going to make this trade if it is on the table. But I can't blame James Edwards for I can't blame James Edwards for pushing the Knicks to try to make this trade, because this is a move, looking at it right now and looking at what the Knicks need, especially our defense. Our interior, inside, is atrocious at times. Even though we have Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, and OG Anunoby, they're good for what they do. But inside the paint, we're vulnerable, and we stay vulnerable. That's why when we make a move like this, it's thinking about the future as well. What do you think teams in the playoffs are going to do against us? They're going to run inside and do the exact same thing unless we figure out a way to shut it off. If we're not going to be able to shut it off with players coming back, then the other way to do that is trade for a player that you know will be able to shut it off, and Tom Thibodeau will have no choice but to play. Isaiah Stewart fills that role. He fits that role perfectly, and I think the Knicks should make this move sooner rather than later, especially with Robinson's return date being pushed back again. He likely might return now in March. He might return in March now. And if Isaiah Stewart is on the table, and this is all it's going to cost you, no first-round picks, nothing like that, just a couple of seconds, and 2 players that might not be part of your future moving forward, I'm doing this trade, especially because Stewart is young, fits the age timeline, and his contract goes into 2027, 2028. Essentially, he's Precious Achiuwa, but younger and still gives you the 3-ball. I'm doing this trade. Would you? Would you guys do this trade? Let me know in the comments. We also let me know in the comments whether or not you would do this trade or you wouldn't do this trade. I'm very curious what you guys have to say. But we only don't have James L. Edwards here giving us his take. He also interviewed a number of different insiders for those teams, and we also got the following information from those insiders. Let's break down what they had to say about this trade. Shout out to Darnell Mayberry, a Bulls beat writer, who said the following: if the Bulls' goal is to rebuild, the framework of this trade makes sense. The Bulls get to begin life after LaVine and will have successfully traded his contract without having to attach additional assets. Robinson would give the Bulls a sorely needed athletic big who can block shots and finish lobs. But the Bulls have displayed little interest in second-round picks. It would be atypical of them to value 4 second-round selections, and that might be the sticking point in this scenario. But that doesn't mean it's one that the Bulls shouldn't consider. So clearly here, this insider believes that the Bulls would consider it, but ultimately, they wouldn't do it because it consists of too many second-round picks. And if they're going to accept a package like that and make a trade for Zach, they're going to need some first-round compensation back. And it doesn't look like they're getting anything like that here. But maybe you consider it because, like that insider stated, you're not attaching any assets either to get off of LaVine. So that's another thing we have to talk about there. But very good insight. And it also tells you it's at least realistic, even though it's ridiculous. It's insane. I can't believe what we just reviewed. Even though that's the case, this insider, who has no ties to the Knicks, who doesn't want to see the Knicks actively do good, states that the trade on its head at value actually makes sense for everybody. It's just about whether or not the front offices will think it makes enough sense to do it. We didn't stop there as well, too. We also have more information from another NBA insider with Detroit, who also gave his breakdown and his updates about if Detroit would pull off this trade as well, too. Hunter Patterson, a Pistons beat writer, said the following: my first thought would be that the Pistons are playing so well right now. I'd be hesitant to break this group up at all. But LaVine, even though he will enter next season at 30, could be a lethal running mate next to Cunningham. LaVine would be a secondary ball handler who could create his own shot. Plus, he's coexisted with another ball-dominant star in DeMar DeRozan. Lastly, Stewart would arguably be the biggest loss here. Notice what he said. Stewart would be the biggest loss in this trade. Why is he saying that? Because Stewart's not a good player? Because Stewart doesn't deserve the contract that he has? Because he doesn't play defense well? No, it's the opposite. It's because when he's on the floor, the Pistons are a better team. In almost every way, they're a better team. And if they allowed him to shoot threes, they would be a deadlier team, a deeper team, a team that can stretch you out even more. Something to consider if you're Detroit, but hopefully Detroit won't have any way to consider it because the Knicks the Knicks hopefully will make this move, get Stewart away from them so they can't have any chance to experiment what it looks like with Stewart hitting threes and Cade Cunningham driving inside, doing what he does inside, being that triple-double threat that he is each and every night, and doing it at such a very efficient pace. That kid is so impressive. If you continue to add pieces around him, he'll continue to be impressive. But Isaiah Stewart, there's a piece that the Pistons want to keep with him, but the Knicks might be able to pry him away if they sweeten the deal with a couple of other things. Going back to what this Pistons beat writer is saying here. Again, lastly, Stewart would arguably be the biggest loss here. Outside of Cunningham, he's the longest tenured Pistons player, and his grit is the key to this group. I worry about breaking up those close bonds. In trading Stewart, and I don't think Achiuwa would match Stewart's defensive production. He'd at least be a serviceable backup center, but he would not match what Stewart brings to this team. With that said, LaVine is too talented to pass this up. In my opinion, Detroit should land him, and they should do it at any cost. So there you go there as well, too. Even though losing Stewart would be a very big loss, if the Pistons right here are able to get LaVine and pair him with, if they're able to get LaVine and pair him with Cade Cunningham, you just heard what magic that could be, what that could look like. And again, if the Pistons want to see it and they're okay with making this trade and everybody's happy, the Knicks are not losing any first-round picks. We're getting off of two players that might not be part of the future, getting a player that will be part of the future, and Torrey Craig, even if we don't keep him, we can trade him later on. So either way, the Knicks still have other moves that they can make, and they can still add another player to this team because they have $5 million in cap space that they just freed up by making this move. These are moves that the Knicks likely are going to have to think about once they're approaching February 6th, and if they have clarity or not on Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell Robinson will be the one to Mitchell Robinson will be the one to determine or dictate whether the Knicks trade him or whether the Knicks hold on to him. I don't mind whether the Knicks do either or, but it has to be what they believe the most. Do they believe he's going to be out more than he's going to play? Or do they believe once he returns, he's not going to have any risk of injury, he's going to play consistently, and he's not going to have any issues? That's essentially the update that I'm waiting on. That's the update that most of you guys are waiting on, but we haven't had clarity on that yet. The only thing that we've heard about Robinson is that he looks good in rehab, he's progressing well, but he has not been cleared for contact, not been cleared for practice, which likely means he's weeks away. That means that the Knicks are not going to see him play one official game before they can make a decision on trading him or not. That's another big thing New York has to consider here. Another huge obstacle. Not being able to see Mitchell Robinson play one game and then taking the risk of potentially not trading him, keeping him, watching him come back to this team, and maybe he doesn't look like the same player anymore. And if that happens, you're stuck with him. You can't move him, and you have to wait till the offseason to move him. And at that point, maybe his value is even worse, even lower. The Knicks are taking a risk either way they move, and that's why, in my opinion, a trade is needed. Trade Sims, that's fine. But after you do that, once you know more information about Mitchell Robinson and you believe he's not going to return, if that's the case, make the call, make this trade, get Isaiah Stewart on this roster, and get off of Mitchell Robinson and turn the page on that chapter. Guys, I think some of you will agree with me at this point. It's time. It's time to turn the page, start anew, and see what this team can look like when we have the available players that we need on the bench so Tom Thibodeau can use them. That's where I am with everything right now. But that's where we are in terms of the trades and potentially what the next trade the Knicks are going to make. That trade might be for Isaiah Stewart. It could be for Jonas Valanciunas with the Washington Wizards. There are a lot of players that have been linked to the Knicks this season. But if it's up to James L. Edwards of The Athletic, if he could choose, it would be Isaiah Stewart. And if this is the trade he's proposing and everybody's okay with it, I might not disagree with him. The only thing we're waiting on now is the updates, because the updates will justify whether this is a good trade or a bad trade. But it doesn't mean they're going to execute it right now. Like I said, waiting is a virtue, and so is patience. Leon Rose has that in spades. And if a Robinson trade does happen, just like if a Jericho Sims trade happens, it's not going to occur until early February. February 3rd, February 4th, February 5th, around that time. Not before that, because waiting is likely going to get you more assets if you're the Knicks, not less. And Leon wants as much as possible. We all know that. We've all seen that. And from our eyes, we know that holding on to assets and making sure you're using them the right way in the future is a Leon Rose specialty. So I can't wait to see what move he has cooked up for us, because I guarantee you guys, a move is coming before February 6th. Now, jumping gears here, I want to take a look at Karl-Anthony Towns and what he said recently in Slam magazine. Now, if you guys didn't know, Karl-Anthony Towns recently graced the cover of Slam, and he was holding up his jersey, a Knicks jersey, obviously, and it said a Spanish saying on the bottom. I believe it said, "Ya tu sabe." And that's what it said on the cover. It was a great cover. He looked amazing in it, but they asked him a lot of questions in the magazine. They even had a small video on YouTube. You guys should definitely see it. I actually urge you guys to see it. It's great if you want to learn more about Karl-Anthony Towns and how he feels about the Knicks and this moment. But you know me, I read it, I watched it, and I saw Karl-Anthony Towns say something that kind of shocked me a little bit. It took me back, not in a bad way, because it's the truth, but the way he said it, the way I read it, it's a truth that only he could make me realize at the time, but it also shows me how valuable Karl-Anthony Towns is to this team and why we need to protect him from himself, and also why we need to make a trade as soon as possible. Because if Towns goes down, there's really nobody else that could ever replicate what he gives to this team. Let's take a look at exactly what Towns had to say about playing for New York this year and how different it is playing for the Knicks this year compared to playing for Minnesota for his entire career. Shout out to Slam Magazine for giving us the following information. Cat on the biggest difference playing for the Knicks this season. I've been very fortunate to be part of some amazing, talented teams, and this team is just different. I think we're as talented a team I've ever played for, but it's just a different team. We're not the tallest team, and I'm used to being around a bunch of 7-footers right there. That right there took me back just a little bit. Couldn't believe that, because it's true. The Knicks are actually a little bit small. Now, you don't think that when you're watching the game all the time. You try not to notice it at times. Because you see Karl-Anthony Towns, you see Karl-Anthony Towns, he's always there. He's a tall guy. So you never really think about it, given the amount of minutes that he plays. Sometimes you see Huck Porty, so you really don't think about it. And when Mitchell Robinson does return, you're going to be able to see Robinson as well. He's going to give you size. But when those guys are not available, it's Towns, and then it's Achiuwa, and that's it. You don't see Sims at times. We don't have anybody else to really put in the game at times. So that's all you're seeing. It's just Karl-Anthony Towns. So he's absolutely correct. He's spot on. He said the Knicks are a small team, smaller than really any team he's been a part of. And that makes sense after you hear what he said. Normally, he's used to being around a lot of 7-footers. But this team, even though they're just as talented, they're a little bit smaller. And Towns recognizes that. But because he recognizes it, he understands his role is a little bit different with this team than it was in Minnesota. And he relishes that. He steps up for that. He wants to have that challenge and that opportunity. And that right there is one of the main reasons why Karl-Anthony Towns needs to be a Knick for his entire career. Because saying things like this will ingratiate you to the fans and everybody who loves this team. Going back to what Karl-Anthony Towns is saying here, like he stated, we're not the tallest team, and I'm used to being around a bunch of 7-footers. That's probably the biggest physical difference. But the talent is there, and it's abundant. I love the professionalism the team brings every day. I love the humor Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson bring for show, and especially when you add Mikal Bridges too. I still think that OG Anunoby is the funniest on this team. I love our grit, that New York grit. The culture is about leaving it all on the floor for the fans and respecting their time. And I just love that. And you know what, Towns? We know you love that, Towns. 1 second, let me get this thing out of the way here. And he says again, he wants to respect the fans and their time. And he says he loves how this culture is and how this grit is, right? Karl-Anthony Towns, we love you back. You love the culture. You love how the fans treat you. You love how the fans operate. What you've done this year, everything that you've accomplished, the MVP level cat that you've become, every New Yorker respects you, your level of play, what you do, your hustle, and your impact. Now, obviously, some people will criticize your defense, but everything you do, all the effort that you give, and you still give effort on defense, even though sometimes it's not the greatest effort, sometimes you overhelp. I understand. Not everybody's going to be perfect. Cat is not perfect, but you know what? He's very, very close to it. He may not be the greatest defender, but everything else, he does very, very well. It's a reason why he's putting up career high numbers in rebounds. There's a reason he's a starter this year for the Eastern Conference All-Stars. It wasn't just gifted to him. He worked for it. He pushed himself. He earned it. And might I add, this year, what he's done, debuting for a team the way he has, making All-Star, making it an All-Star starter. Those things are extremely hard to do. Not many people in the league can say they've done that. But Karl-Anthony Towns, he can say that he has, because he has. And it's something that every single person should be thankful for and should be respecting him for, because it's not an easy feat at all. But Karl-Anthony Towns did it. And my goodness, it's amazing to see. Excuse me, guys. I got to get a drink of water here. Just not working out right now. 1 second. All right, give me a second, guys. I'm checking the stats right now because, again, I can't see anything on these stats, unfortunately. YouTube took away my streaming stats today, so I can't see them. But anybody in the stream, if you're watching, please go ahead and smash that like button if you haven't done that already. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. And maybe, just maybe, you came here looking for the giveaways. And if you came here looking for the giveaways, I promise you we will get there very, very soon. In about the next 30 or so minutes, we're going to get to the giveaways. Who won the giveaway, who won those tickets, and what that means moving forward. So don't worry. I think in about 20 or so minutes, in about 20 or so minutes, we're going to get there. So hold on there. But like I said, going back to Karl-Anthony Towns really quickly, if you say things like this, you play the way he's been playing, you are going to get the love from New York. And right now, Towns has the love from this Knicks fan base. And you got to love it, because you know what? I know I love it. I love seeing it. I love hearing it for him. And I love everybody giving him that feeling that New York is behind him. As a player, I don't think there is anything more valuable than knowing your city rides for you. And Towns, New York, just like we ride for Brunson, we ride for you. Look at those votes. You were voted for as much, if not as much, you were voted for as much, not even, maybe more. You were more. Karl-Anthony Towns was voted for as much, maybe even more. I think it was more regarding his all-star voting. So because of that, it tells you New York rides for you. We rock with you, just like we rock with Jalen Brunson. And you are a player that moving forward is going to be somebody that we always want to see doing successfully. You never have to worry about New York turning his back on you. Continue playing aggressive. Continue being the Karl-Anthony Towns that we see driving, shooting threes, being that Towns that nobody expected, including myself, destroying all expectations and creating a whole new narrative. The Karl-Anthony Towns MVP narrative that nobody saw coming. You keep doing that, New York is going to have no other choice but to cheer you, back you, and ride for you. Before we close out today's show, I want to go to our last topic today. It's a very important one because it does have to do with Karl-Anthony Towns, but really the Knicks team in general, specifically though, Jalen Brunson. I think we all have seen it, right? I know I've seen it. Jalen Brunson goes into the paint, gets hit a number of times. No call. Hit again. Goes up for a layup. No call. Shoved. No call. Takes a legit charge. No call. The NBA is a little bit more physical this year. I understand that. But does physicality mean consistency? Because if you're going to play it physical more, that's fine, as long as you call it consistent. I don't believe that's been happening a lot throughout the league. Not only for the Knicks, just throughout the league, I felt like it's gotten worse. But Tom Thibodeau, the Knicks head coach, he didn't hold back. He believes it's against the Knicks. He believes something is going on. He's called out the refs, but even more than that, he's telling them to do their job. Tom Thibodeau went off. He called out the refs for the lack of calls that Jalen Brunson and really the entire Knicks team is having. And he has an argument. He really does have a gripe. If you've been watching every game like I have, the way the Knicks are going inside, Karl-Anthony Towns sometimes gets hit on the head, over the eyebrow, on the arm. No call. Jalen Brunson pushed. No call. OG Anunoby shoved to the ground. No call. Mikal Bridges tripped up. No call. But then when the Knicks do it on the other end, foul, call, they go to the line. It's not consistent. And then when it's not consistent, the Knicks get frustrated and they do silly fouls on the other end so the refs can see it and say, hey, listen, you didn't call it over there, so why are you calling it over here? When you're frustrated and you see other people basically getting away with other things that you wouldn't get away with, you act out. And sometimes we see the Knicks act out. We never want to see that. There's no reason or excuse for it. And while I've called that out, and I've said, you have to stop arguing. If you don't get the call, you don't get the call. Move on. Don't argue in the back court for 5 to 7 seconds and have it be 4-on-5 in the front court. Don't do that because that's going to hurt New York. But if it's a timeout, talk to the referee. I have no problem with you doing that because a lot of the times as I'm watching, it's bad. It's really, really bad. They're not calling a lot. The Knicks should be getting to the line maybe twice as much as they've been getting to the line. That's how bad it is. Let's see exactly what Tom Thibodeau recently had to say about the referees, the officiating, and what the league is doing or really allowing. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to take a drink of water here. All right, I'm back, guys. So as you see here, shout out to New York Basketball on the app X for giving us the following information. According to Tom Thibodeau on the referees, I send clips in. I do it all. I just want consistency. I don't know what the discrepancy in the free throws was. Nets 25, Knicks 14, but it was big. I'm watching Cat. I'm watching Jalen. There's contact. A foul's a foul. Guys get fouls. You gotta call it. It's your job. It's your job. It's your job. Call it. Call the foul. Jalen is getting knocked to the floor. Call the foul. He's getting shoved off the screen. Call the foul. Do your job. Do it. Shout out to Ian Bagley. Bagley states, Karl-Anthony Towns said, Karl-Anthony Towns said, it is what it is to most questions about his sprained thumb and bone chip. But he did acknowledge that the injury has impacted his perimeter shooting. Towns is 1 for 9 from 3 since coming back from the injury. Now, I've said this for actually a while now. When I saw Karl-Anthony Towns return that first game and I saw him shoot, I knew it was going to be a bad night. I knew he didn't have it. He looked like he was in pain, almost immediately grabbed it. Didn't look right. Now, the next game after, when he was shooting, he was grimacing again. But this time around, he wasn't really shooting as many threes. He was driving a lot, trying to get contact, trying to go inside, trying to shoot easier mid-ranges. That's what he was trying to do. Now, if he was open for 3 and nobody was near him, he would take the 3. Because if he has a little bit of space and he's open, he's still Karl-Anthony Towns. He's still going to shoot the 3 ball, and he's likely going to make it in. But when he has a player on him and defending him, and he's trying to shoot that 3, it creates a lot of ball pressure. And that ball pressure likely puts a lot of strain on that thumb because he has to hold it for longer, has to put pressure on holding it, has to make a decision on if he's going to shoot it, pass it, whatever's going to happen. It's not as quick as getting the ball and thinking, okay, I'm going to shoot it now, like a catch and shoot, not holding it for that long. So it's easier for Towns to do that. But he doesn't get that many opportunities to do that. Why should he? He's Karl-Anthony Towns. A lot of teams are not going to leave him open. However, that is quite the admission there. The entire time, last couple of days, when you ask Karl-Anthony Towns about the thumb, it is what it is. It is what it is. Smiles. It is what it is. Didn't say anything about his shot, his shooting, what's happening, anything like that. But you know what? Now he's saying his shooting is becoming affected because of the injury. I anticipated that. He has a bone chip in his thumb, along with a sprain. It hurts. It's probably uncomfortable. It probably gets inflamed a lot. An inflamed thumb will hurt your entire hand. It'll be in pain. You will not be able to move it comfortably, which means you will not be able to shoot comfortably. So other things you might be able to do is drive and take contact. Because when you're driving, it's not really about the shooting as much of it is about taking contact, getting to the line, and getting an easier bucket because you're closer to the rim. We got to remember, that's likely what Karl-Anthony Towns is trying to do now because he doesn't really have the ability to do anything else with that injury that he's suffering. It's unfortunate for New York, but it's even more unfortunate that the Knicks just can't rest him. I would love the Knicks to rest him, keep him on the bench, and wait till he's fully recovered and healed. But if that's the case, they're going to rest Karl-Anthony Towns for a couple of weeks, and they do not have anybody on this team to rest him for weeks. Towns doesn't want to rest for weeks anyways, and doctors have already cleared him, saying he's day-to-day, not going to need surgery, and then the thumb just needs to have to be checked out each and every day to make sure he's good enough to go for every game they're going to play. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to cause him some level of discomfort. Not going to be easy, but at least he can stay into the game. And maybe that's really what we need. Him staying in the game so that way he's still a presence and does something. But it's a risk. What if he hits that thumb wrong? What if he goes down on that thumb wrong? All of those things are possibilities. That's why here, it's really, do I rest Towns or do I play him? If I rest him, I might lose a lot of games. If I keep him, I might win some games, maybe lose some games, but I might risk more injury to my big man. If it's affecting his shooting, maybe rest him until it's not affecting his shooting. I'm not saying don't play him with the bone chip, but if it's not going to be comfortable for him shooting that 3, and everybody knows that it's going to be uncomfortable for him shooting that 3, then teams are going to start looking for that, trying to aim for that. And when that happens, what is he going to do? just be more in pain. I don't know if you're the Knicks right now, you're really in a position where you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You play him and he does well you understand why you do that and you want to win. You don't play him, you understand why, but if you start losing, the fan base might turn on you. They might turn on you anyways if Towns goes down with an injury. Risk either way, but even though I may want Towns to rest, maybe you guys may want Towns to rest as well too, that's not going to happen. He has way too much pride. He understands what playing means for the city, and he knows that him playing gives the Knicks the best chance to win. He is going to continue to play, continue to be day-to-day, and continue to try to be a force for this team so we can continue to win games and hopefully put together another winning streak. We could really use another one of those. We could really also use a lot of rest days. The All-Star break is very, very soon. It's coming up. So Towns will be having the ability to get some rest. Now, he's likely going to play in the All-Star game, but there's some time between then and now. There is also some time after that, and when he plays again, to really rest and recover. So he's going to have the time to really get back to being Karl-Anthony Towns. But if the Knicks can afford it, I would rather him rest. But since it looks like that they can't, and they won't, he's going to be playing. And as he plays, he's going to get hit. And as he gets hit, we're not going to see any calls because as Tom Thibodeau stated, whether it's Jalen Brunson, whether it's Karl-Anthony Towns, OG, Mikal, it doesn't matter. They're going to go into the paint, they're going to get hit, and nobody's going to call a thing. And either they make it or they don't. Still not going to matter. Nobody's going to call a thing. And the Knicks are not really big sellers. They don't want to take contact and fake it and pretend they took contact and really have an acting job going out there because that's not really what basketball is. But the referees, they're going to force this at some point. They're going to force the Knicks to react so demonstrative, so huge, so, oh my goodness, I got hit with a bullet type of way. Because that's the only way you're going to call anything for the Knicks to go to the line. Nobody wants to see the game devolve to that. Nobody wants to see the game go to that level. But you're going to make that happen if you don't start calling it consistently and you don't start making the right decisions. The referees have to do better, but you know what? The Knicks have to do better as well too. Play Karl-Anthony Towns less, especially if you know he's in pain, and play your bench more. Develop your bench more. Develop that second unit that we're going to need in the postseason. Right now gives you a very good opportunity to do that. Hopefully the Knicks can start blowing out some teams so Tom Thibodeau is more forced to do that. But even in those situations, is he going to play the same amount of minutes for the starters? Is he going to play them a little bit less? Nobody knows yet because we haven't seen this version of Tom Thibodeau who is comfortable going to his bench, playing a nine-man rotation. Nine-man rotation, because really, sometimes it's 7 with 2 other players that play less than 10, and that's not ideal. But again, pebbles, small steps, that's what Tom Thibodeau is. If he does play 9 men, and he continues to be the coach that we've seen, make adjustments, make the right changes at times, then when we get players back, it will be beneficial for New York. It's going to help us. But Tom Thibodeau himself is going to have to make changes as well. He's asking for changes from the referees. I want to see that. But I want to see Tom Thibodeau also make some more changes. Don't give Landry Shamet and Cam Payne 10 minutes, 8 minutes, 12 minutes. If you're playing somebody off the bench, play him 15 minutes. Play any one of them 15 minutes or more. If Achiuwa is going to play 15 plus, I'm happy. If Cam's going to do that, I'm happy. If Deuce is going to do that, I'm happy. If Shamet's going to do that, I'm happy. Whoever you put out there off the bench, play them more than 10 to 12 minutes. It's going to help New York if you're able to do that. And then it's going to rest your starters so that way they take on less risk of injury. And when you need them late in game, they're there, they have fresh legs, and it's going to help you more than it's going to hurt you. I'm not sure why the Knicks won't do it. I'm not sure why Tom Thibodeau refuses to develop any of the rookies right now, especially when he has a reason to, even though they're situational. That should be the case. I'm not sure what's going on with New York in this situation, guys. I really don't. I look at it, I think about it. I see Huck Porty, I see Tyler Kolek, I see TJ Warren, I see Chuma. I know that they deserve minutes. I know that they should be playing in this league, and they should be playing consistently. They should be playing for the Knicks, but it doesn't happen. And even if they're on the squad, they may not get any minutes because Tom Thibodeau might not see the talent in them enough to play them those minutes. And that's a scary thought, not being able to see the talent that you have and the way to utilize it. Tom Thibodeau, expand your rotation and utilize who you have. If you did that months ago, we wouldn't be talking about trades right now. If you did that months ago, we wouldn't be talking about a burnt out roster right now. But unfortunately, those things didn't happen. And now, these are the results. A change is needed. And you are the biggest factor to all of that change. If you make a move, it affects everything. Remember that, guys, and keep that in mind. That's going to do it for this episode and this show, though. But like we always do, we're going to go to the chat gang really quickly to get your comments and see what you guys had to say about today's show. Some things that maybe you liked about today's show. Maybe some things I didn't talk about during today's show that you wanted to hear. Mention them in the chat now, and I promise you, we're going to get to them in a little bit. But even though the show is done for, but even though the show is, but even though the show is done for right now, and we're going to go to the chat gang in a little bit, before we do any of that, we have a giveaway to announce. Now, I waited until 12:01 a.m., and then when it was officially Friday, I did the randomizer. I put every member's name in randomly, and then it popped out a name, and that one person won 2 tickets to see the Knicks versus the Nuggets next week, January 29th, a Wednesday at MSG. Joker versus Cat. You see that battle live at MSG next week. The giveaway winner is being announced right now. You guys are not going to believe who it is. I don't have a drum roll, so unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do that. But without further ado, the giveaway winner is... Taking a drink of water for a second. The giveaway winner is the real Django. He has been a member for 6 months. One of our longest members, one of our longest subscribers. I was so happy to see him win these 2 tickets for the game next week between the Knicks and the Nuggets because, again, it was absolutely shocking when the randomizer put out his name. Could not believe it. Incredible. Shout out to the real Django, my guy. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I am so happy for you, my guy. Now, I already got the tickets. They've already been ordered. They're through StubHub. So once they send me the links for them, I'm just going to transfer them over to you, and you're going to be able to get them via whatever app that you use, and you'll be able to go to the game. Now, they are 2 tickets, so you can use them however you want. You and one of your friends can go. You can take a moderator if you want to. You can take Yuri. You can take somebody from the Knicks community on Twitter. Whatever you want to do, it is up to you. But I did this giveaway to give back to everybody who supports me, everybody who supports this channel, and everybody who has subscribed, who has become a member, and has given me the 10 to 15 minutes each and every day, just a little bit of your time to make me smile. Call this the thing that I do for a profession, but even more than that, make me so happy to communicate and engage with each and every single one of you daily. This is never something that would be feeling this good if it wasn't for the community. I thank you guys so much. I would never be here without you guys. But again, shout out to the giveaway winner, the real Django. I mean, come on now, guys. 6 months ago, this is like it was written. It felt like this was a story, and it happened. Congratulations. 2 tickets for the Knicks versus Nuggets game. You get to see Joker. You get to see Cat. You get to see that amazing matchup. Good luck to you. Please take a lot of photos. Take a lot of videos. Tag me in everything that you do because I want to see it live. And once you do that, we might have an exclusive of you coming on the show. with a lot of the things that you've given us. And maybe you can talk about your experience, what happened, the giveaway, and things like that, and get that as a different episode that we can drop on this channel. Just a little bit of different content. But man, I am so happy for you. If you don't know The Real Django, he supports this channel every single day. I mean, I don't know what his favorite Nick YouTube channels are, but I gotta say, I think I'm one of them. And by the way, for every single person, I see you guys in the comments sometimes. You guys make me so humbled at times. A lot of you say that the only two channels that you watch in terms of Knicks content is my channel and Knicks Fan TV. For me to be in comparison, in the same list with Knicks Fan TV, with my guy CP over there, the franchise, humbled by so many levels. You guys make me humbled by that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Really do mean that. But without further ado, that's the giveaway. Thank you guys so much. We're jumping right into the chat, gang, listening to you guys, see what you guys have to say, and then we're going to end the show for today. But I appreciate you guys so much. So many good things today. Knicks 100 GM says, oh, well, they're having an argument already. Why do I come into this chat and you guys are always just arguing away? Always something going on. And you know what, Knicks 100? You're always in the middle of that. Why are you always in the middle of that? What do you say? You said something. You said something about Mitch or something about something. I know you did it. You have to do it. You know what? I'm going to move on. Just going to move on. Nelly says, salute to Real Django. Definitely salute to that man. Really cool. And Plitzit says, hey, bye. Proud of you, my man. We went to Bryan High School and had math together. I think it was Mr. Hanif's class. Hey, my guy. What's going on? I mean, I remember Bryan. I remember high school, and I remember Mr. Hanif. But I don't remember what's your name? Tell me your name. Yeah, I'll remember your name. I don't remember exactly who you are. If you tell me your name, I might remember you. Let's see. Oh, my. How's that foolish, Troy? Look at Knicks 100. Well, you know what? You can say it now, Knicks 100. You can say it because I'm not upset about it anymore. He's not part of our team. You can say it. Behold some of your criticisms about the team. I've been watching what you've been saying, all right? You're on a very, very big watch right now. Watch what you're saying. The Prince says, laughing my ass off. David says, who are the teams in on Sims right now, Troy? Very good question. Right now, we don't have the exact teams listed that are going after Jericho Sims. We know the Houston Rockets at some point were interested, but we don't know if they have current interest in him. I don't think that the Knicks would just go around trading him to any team, but I would gather that they're looking to trade him to a Western Conference rival. The reason why is because why would they trade him here? Why would they trade him to an Eastern Conference team? They don't want to see him again. They rather see him as little as possible. So trading him out west makes a lot of sense. So does Houston. And Plitzer says, Nabil, barely went to class, bro, but I remember you there. You had long hair back then. Only a few brown kids in that class. I you know, it's so funny. I remember so many Nabils in that class. I can't put I can't see you in my head. I know the name, but I can't see you in my head. Maybe we'll talk after. You'll leave all these comments. I might try to get in touch with you after, see if we can communicate. I love to speak with somebody I haven't spoken to in a while. Let's see here, though. But shout out to you. I appreciate you coming onto the stream and jumping on. Let's see here. The Prince says, agreed, Troy. Tony Stark says, what's up, Troy? What steps would you take to become a high school basketball coach? Hey, I appreciate that. That's great. I mean, to be honest, the number one thing I would do if I'm doing anything high school, I'm really getting my education. You need education to do anything. So I'd get my education first. I'd make sure I like kids. And then I would make sure I actually want to do it. And I have the reputable team that I want to do it for. Not everybody likes high school coaching. It's not as glamorous as everybody thinks it is. Everybody wants to do it until they actually do it. It's a lot of hours, long hours, mind you, a lot of game planning, a lot of practice, sometimes so much practice. And if you don't have a full squad, you're going to have to either cancel it or try to play without. And it's hard to play without. It's a good question, but I'm not sure I'm the best person to ask the full steps, but I know it starts with a commitment. So maybe start there. Try to improve your education, and then from there, we can kind of go from all out from there. And Plitzer says, no doubt, no doubt. Appreciate you, my guy. Josh says, we need to make Jonas Valanciunas a Knick legend. Listen, man, if you want Jonas, then you got to tell Mitch to not do well. Because right now, it's all depending on Mitchell Robinson. If Mitchell Robinson does not look good, if he just looks like a poor excuse of how he used to look last year, he's going to get moved. Who he's going to get moved for, I don't know yet. Jonas Valanciunas, by far, seems like the most likely. Because everything would make sense for that. Think about it like this. They could get Jonas without having to include Precious. So that means you can push Precious to his natural position, which is the power forward, and you're still able to use the backup presence that you get by making that deal for Jonas. So the Knicks could do that, but it's all about the faith they have in Mitchell Robinson. Do they think Robinson's going to come back and perform at a high level, or is he just going to fizzle out? Important to look at. 1 second, guys. Always getting a little stuck there, man. Telling you. Carl Knight says, can talk also about how Cat went from around 100K votes last season in Minnesota to over 3 million votes here in New York. This just shows you New York is different. Gotta agree with that. Gotta agree with that. Excuse me. Wow. Always in my throat right now. My goodness. Ugh. This is the problem when you're sick and you're streaming. When you're sick and you're streaming, your throat can close up on you. Can't catch your breath. Your throat kind of closes a little bit at times. You got to take another extra breath. It's so bad, guys. I hope you guys understand. I love this. Because if I didn't, it would be so easy to call a sick day right now. Clearly, I'm struggling as we speak. And I'm thinking right now, this is not going to get better over a day. I'm going to do my best to try to stay healthy for that game tomorrow against the Kings, because I really want to do the post game for that show. But honestly speaking, with the way that I do post games, the way I go crazy and get excited, I might not have a voice for when we start post game. And given how I sound right now, I might have to cancel the post game for tomorrow, guys. I don't want to do that. Trust me, I don't. But it might make the most sense to do that because I don't really feel great right now. I'm going to call it tomorrow morning. When I wake up tomorrow, if I feel good, I'll do the post game. If I don't feel that great, I'm probably going to cancel it. I'll put a post out there for you. Once I feel better, I am absolutely going to start doing them again consistently. I want to. Every time I seem to want to get a chance to do it right, something continues to hit me. I don't know why. It's crazy, man. The Angry Casual fan says, Sims going to average a double-double somewhere. Where? You have to score to do that. He doesn't score. Doesn't even shoot. Where is he going to average a double-double? You have to also have an impact out there. You have to know what you're doing. He gets lost a lot. He looks like a lot of times he has no idea what set they're running. I don't know how you're going to see time. Knicks 100 says, why do we always win without Mitch if he's so important? My goodness. My goodness. Nelly Nell with the amazing super chat. $5 super chat as well says, salute Captain JB and Cat for all-star selections. Come on now, guys. You got to do it. Nelly gave the $5 super chat for it. Salute to the captain, Jalen Brunson. And of course, Karl-Anthony Towns. Salute to that man as well, too. Both of our guys, all-star starters, 50 years. 50 years we have waited for this moment. And we're finally here. You gotta love it. Take a look at this graphic, guys, why I take care of myself once again. Be careful with you guys in the comments as well, too. I see Knicks 100 GM starting so much already. What are you doing, man? All right, back again. My goodness, man. Doing this show sick sucks. It really does. I can't yell as much as I want to. I can't scream as much as I want to. And I like to I like to be very loud and demonstrative when I talk. I like to, be very powerful. That's kind of how I am. And I feel like I'm being prevented from doing that. It's like it's not wanting me to do the things that I know I'm good at. Terrible, man. But shout out to everybody in the chat. I appreciate you. Let's see here. You guys are saying, oh, we got Nelson, my guy Nelson in the house, and he is a member. Shout out to you. Thank you for joining the membership as well. I appreciate that. Now, like all of our other great members, you are now you're now signed up anyways moving forward for all the giveaways that we're doing. So if you want to win any of our giveaways, just go ahead and become a member of the channel. And yes, you too can maybe win some Knick tickets, get some exclusive gear. Maybe the next giveaway could be an exclusive merch item that I'm making myself, and you guys could be the first to own it. We'll see about that as we move forward here. The Prince says, keep a guy that ain't available. Then when he gets injured again, then what? You see there? And then this shop says, we need Mitch. How we forget who Mitch is. So for me, I'm on the fence with Mitchell Robinson. I'm always on the fence when it comes to Mitchell Robinson. I see the value. We got to talk about both sides though, don't we? Because you see the value either way. You see the value of Mitchell Robinson if he's here on this team. You know what he can do. You know what he can provide. But I think the Prince makes a very good point. Can you trust it? Will it be available? And if it's not available, then we're talking about somebody sitting on the bench doing nothing for you. Are we really trying to cap for somebody doing nothing? We got to make sure we understand. Yeah, we want more size. We want more ability. We want more defense. But we also have to understand who we're talking about. Are we going to be able to get that level of defense or that level of play for Mitchell Robinson consistently? I don't believe that's the case. Implicit says, going back to what Implicit was saying here, let's talk Moses Brown for a second. If we thought he was legit for this squad, I figure he would be here already, unless we can't sign any more two-ways and it's a roster threshold issue. Right now, it's a roster threshold issue. They can't sign anybody right now until late February, early March. The only way they can sign somebody else is if they trade somebody, but they don't get any players back for that player. Like a Jericho Sims, for instance. You trade Jericho Sims, you free up cap space, and then you open up a roster spot. By doing that, they can go to the G League, and likely they can be able to sign a Chuma or somebody like that. It wouldn't be somebody like TJ, though. I think they still might be a little bit off on TJ. They still would be able to sign TJ later in March, though, when they had access to more, not more money, when the cap situation kicks in and basically players' values, their contract numbers start to drop considerably. So what they're making day to day changes, and the Knicks might have the ability at that point to sign a TJ. But if they trade off Jericho Sims, going to the G League right away would be the easiest thing to do to upgrade, get more talent, do it cheaply, and still get more assets. So that's the way I think they're going to move and what they're going to do. That's the lower level move that doesn't affect the core. It still allows the Knicks to wait for Mitchell Robinson, even though at this point you're waiting for him to, I don't know, do what? Wait for him to continue to be in the pool, diet, not practice, not take contact. We've been talking about those same updates since the beginning of January. Now it's the end of January. We're still talking about them. So again, it's concerning, but we're going to see what happens with Mitchell Robinson when he can return and what's going to happen there. But I don't think that you're going to see a major trade. You're going to see that lower level trade, but it's going to give you access to a lot of other things. Moses Brown could be it, but I don't think exactly it. The Prince says, one event can change the course of history, sure, but it's Mitch. He got hurt and been out for less. Chuma is Vib Shop's, I guess, choice here in terms of who he wants to get added to the team. I can't disagree with you, actually. I would agree with that 100%. Chuma is a Josh Hart light player. When he's on the squad, he would be amazing. I agree with you. The Prince says, it's not his fault he ain't asked to be injured that much, but it is what it is. I ain't sugarcoating it or being biased. We New York, we always keep it 100. Well, he says, well, we don't. Don't we always keep, oh, okay, I got what you're saying. Don't we always keep it 100? Yes, we always do keep it 100. And honestly, I'm saying the same thing to you. Whoever's talking about Mitchell Robinson right now, whoever you're responding to right now, the Prince, I would say that Mitchell Robinson, you can't blame him for anything that's happened. Mitchell Robinson did exactly what he needed to do. Mitchell Robinson has been doing what he needs to do. I'm not blaming Mitch, but the situation is what it is. You are absolutely correct with that. You can't change what the situation is. Do we still need a big? Yes. Do we need a backup center? Yes. Can Mitchell Robinson play? No. What do we do? You got to make a decision at some point. And I understand why it happened. Now I need to understand what I'm getting in the future. What am I going to be receiving in the future? That's going to be the best thing here. Nick Yak says, Mitch is selfish? Explain that one. The man who led the league in boxing out so Randall can get the rebounds. Nick Yak, we always go back and forth. I didn't say anything about him being selfish. I think you're probably talking about somebody in the chat. I will say, though, that Mitchell Robinson, again, for all the good that he does, you have to acknowledge the bad. You have to acknowledge it. Is Mitchell Robinson available? How many times has he had seasons where he's missed more games than he's been available? I don't care about the specific injury. It's more about the games played each and every year and his availability. Is that going up or is it going down? Because the Knicks need to make decisions based off of that. We can love what some player did before. We can love their contributions and what they did before. But are they going to be able to do those things moving forward? If they can't, then what are we holding on to? Hope? A dream? You got to hold on to what you see. And if the Knicks trade Robinson, that tells me they've seen enough and they know he's not going to be the same anymore. At least in my opinion here. Capo says, Thibs getting rid of his defensive anchor before seeing what he has to give. I don't know about that one. I don't know if it's Tom Thibodeau giving it away. It's more so Mitchell Robinson's not back yet to take it. And we're waiting on him to come back. The Knicks are waiting on him to come back. But if you wait and he doesn't look the same and you wait until March, you can't move him till the offseason. The Knicks have to juggle the situation as carefully as possible. So it's not that they want to do anything. They're forced to do it because they can't force Robinson to play to see what he can do. So they're being forced to make that decision at the deadline, whether to trade him or not. Vibs Shop says, Cat and Mitch together is going to be fire. We are not trading Mitch. The Prince says, availability means more than what you do, because if you're not out there to do it, what's the point? Knicks 100 says, it was the same way with Quickly, always. Everyone else's fault but his. Listen, I'm always okay blaming everybody if it's needed. But I'm also okay looking at both sides. And honestly, I think most fans would probably do better if they looked at things from both sides. You have to acknowledge that Mitchell Robinson is an injury risk. You have to, because it's true. Just like I can acknowledge when healthy, he's one of the best offensive rebounders in the game. Just like I can acknowledge when healthy, he fits this team perfectly. He adds exactly what we need. He gives us the defense that we need inside with Karl-Anthony Towns being able to roam and do whatever he wants. Understand that. I'm not saying anything is not true from that. But the other side is also true. Do you trust him? Consistency there? Is he going to be there for the long term? What happens when he gets injured again and then you have nobody to replace him and you're in the same spot again? And you've developed nobody to take his spot or even eventually take his spot. It's more than just Mitchell Robinson. Robinson is an issue. Yes, the Knicks have to address it in some way, but it's also the way we treat talent that's here. We're not developing his replacement. Shouldn't we be doing that? And Huck Porty's right there. Moses Brown is right there. Let's see here. The angry casual fan says, can we stop making trades and just get some chemistry? The chemistry is being worked on. And I don't think the lower level trade is really going to hurt us. It's going to help us. We need to make sure we're resting the starters more. That's the main reason for the trade, to get the starters to rest. Are we going to be able to do that? Don't know yet. Let's see here. Any more? The Prince says, how we mentioning that but missing it? You just got blinders on, Yak. Nick Yak apparently said, we are missing what Mitch has done every single game he played. Absolutely, we are missing it. Everybody knows that. We're missing it because Mitchell Robinson is not playing. But it's also because we're missing it, but we're not implementing anybody else who can do similar things to play. Moses Brown could probably do similar things. We're not playing him. Huck Porty could probably do similar things. We're not playing him. Let's see what they can do in those minutes as well, too. Develop them as well. We need to develop the replacements. Vib Shop says, I don't know why Huck Porty isn't playing. I really don't know why either, man. I still don't understand it. I'm trying to understand why he's situational. What situation are they waiting for, guys? What situation? I don't know what situation. What are they waiting on? What situation is best for him to start playing in? When somebody gets into foul trouble, somebody goes down with injury, somebody is already injured and dealing with a major injury. Why wouldn't you split Karl-Anthony Towns minutes right now? 20 to 25 minutes for him, 20 to 25 minutes or whatever, 20-something minutes for Huck Porty. You give them 2 minutes, magic might happen. Nobody's going to know unless you do it, though. Edwin says, Robinson was good the first couple of years, but now with these recent injuries, he needs to go. On your other point, I totally agree on the rest of talent. I'm a Westchester Knicks season ticket holder. Edwin, my guy, I appreciate you. So you know what I'm talking about then. You see exactly what I'm seeing. You see all the talent that's down there in Westchester. Now listen, I'm not saying Chuma's going to be doing career highs in the NBA, but if he can give you 30 in the G League, he can at least give you 10 in the NBA. Play him 20 to 25 minutes. Guarantee his stat line will look like this. 10 rebounds, 2 steals, 5 assists, 5 rebounds. Promise you, that's what it's going to look like. He's insane. Chuma is insane. He's taken a step up this year that nobody wants to mention, but he is one of the best players on Westchester. Scoring, I'll give you TJ. Everything else, Chuma. And then with size and blocks, you can go to Moses Brown. But again, everything else, Chuma clears, man. Chuma is so good. He needs to be on this team. My goodness. Dollar Business says, when the team is up 15 points, put the backups in. You would think, right? You would think that that's what happened. But it doesn't. We wait till 4 minutes, and then we put the rest of the bench in. Bravo. The Prince and Nick Yak, if you guys want to see what a Mitchell Robinson battle looks like right now in the chat, best believe to watch this. The Prince basically understand what's going on, but he's firmly in, you have to come at least a little bit. And Nick Yak doesn't want to bend at all. He just knows Mitchell Robinson is the answer. How one player with injury concerns coming back to this team could be the answer for any championship contender, I don't know. I know he could be a significant piece. I know he could play good defense, but I don't know how that shifts everything because one injury-prone player comes back. As a team, we need to make the changes. If we make them now, once Robinson comes back, he fits in seamlessly. If we refuse to do it like we're doing now, then he doesn't, and we're scrambling. What do you think is going to happen when he returns? We're going to scramble because we've never played any of those players together. Not even a combination of a lineup like that. Can't win if you don't at least try. At least try to do some of those lineups. The Prince says, literally my sentiment, Troy. It's all good, man. Listen, I already said this before, bro, and I'll say this 100 times. The reason I love talking basketball is because nobody always agrees with everything. Even with you and I, we may agree to a point, and then we'll differ a little bit. I like the differences. I like that. As long as it stays basketball and we all learn. That's the best part of conversation. That's the reason I do these streams and engage with you guys, because I want to hear the back and forth. I want to see the back and forth. It really helps everybody who doesn't know the entire situation. Some people just know Mitchell Robinson's hurt, but some people forgot Joel Embiid did it. Some people forget that he's been in the same position in rehab that he's been in for a month now with no change. Some people forget to mention that his return date has been pushed back 3 times. So all of these things are relevant, and it's good to mention them. Everybody gets caught up in the same time. So very good thing going on right there. Axel says, I think we're okay on depth because this team is built for playoff basketball. Don't worry. But I am worried. How can you say we're built for playoff basketball when we play the teams that are meant to go to the playoffs and they run us off the floor? If we were beating those teams, maybe I would agree with you. Maybe there wouldn't be a level of concern. But we're getting destroyed right now in the regular season. What happens in the postseason when they turn it up a level? What's our next level? Because the Knicks always play at a playoff level. They're always playing at 11. But other teams, are they playing at 11 or are they playing at 8 and waiting till the postseason to raise it till 11? That's what we got to understand here. And if the Knicks have to raise it to 12 or 13 in the postseason, you know how hard that is? To play 3 times better than what you normally play? That's a lot to ask of a player. Nelly Nell says, Chuma is a perfect fit for the Knicks bench. I wouldn't mind Moses Brown getting a call up as well. Same here. We just need to create the space for it. Wait till early March and you can go ahead and sign Moses Brown. But right now, make the trade for Sims and then sign Chuma immediately. He would be an instant upgrade off the bench. Thibodeau would utilize him immediately. 3-and-D, that's what he is. That's the label. Look up 3-and-D player in the G League handbook. I promise you he comes up. That's how good he is. Excuse me. Finesseful J says, we getting cooked and filleted right now. Let's see here. Lewis says, we need to trade Mitchell Robinson. Nostalgia Nick says, and it's lit. The angry casual fan says, we raising it to 10, just beat the Nets. Thibs needs to watch the games live at Westchester because they have major talent there, especially for guards and forwards. Okeke, Toppin, and etc. That's a comment coming from Edwin Diaz. I agree with you 100%. I think that they have the talent there necessary to do what they need to do. They just need to get to it. They need to play it. They need to utilize it. They need to call them up. A lot of steps there. But once they do it, I think everybody wins in that situation. Axel says, you right, but I think as long as we get to see Mitch before the postseason, he thinks we're going to be okay, I guess. We need Moses Brown to pair with Cat. Cat is a good center on offense and better on defense as a power forward. Here's the thing, though, Axel. You really want to mess with this lineup come the postseason? You want to experiment? Didn't we see what we did last year? We experimented, did we not? It didn't work for us. It oftentimes doesn't work. You can't experiment in the postseason. You're going to get taken advantage of. You need to know what you're going to do once you're there. And you need to understand the weapons you have on your team before you get there. You can't go to the postseason not knowing that Karl-Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson together on the floor is a weapon you need to use. If you've never used it before and you're trying to implement it in the postseason, trying to try it out, you're going to lose. You're going to get blown out. It's impossible. And even if you win, when you maneuver your way throughout the playoffs, eventually you will lose because you're going to run into that team that's going to take advantage of it. The good teams, the top teams, they always do. And unfortunately, when you play in the NBA and you go to the playoffs, you always at some point at the end fight the top teams. We saw how that looks like. If the Knicks don't change anything, we know what it's going to look like again. So I definitely think the Knicks need to make changes, and they need to make them fast. Last comment. We're going to go to Finesseful J. Starting Ariel right now and having Mitch replace him in the postseason, I think would work. Finesseful J, I appreciate your comment. It works if they were going to do that lineup at all. It works in trying it out, but it doesn't work for Mitchell Robinson being that player that you expect him to be because you tried that lineup out a few times with a different player, like a Huck Porty or somebody else, because Huck Porty would make sense for that lineup. When Mitch comes back, who's to say he does not make sense for that lineup? And maybe he makes sense for a different lineup. I'm not advocating for the Knicks to start anybody else or do anything like that. What I am advocating for them to do is to play their bench. Utilize their bench players. Play and develop the second unit because you need a second unit, a legit 5 coming off the bench that you can trust. Somebody who can trust on defense, on offense, and do all of the things that the starters do, but maybe not at the same level. maybe at a little bit at a lower level. That's not a bad thing, by the way. It doesn't mean that every starter has to be perfect each and every single night. That's never going to be the case. And I wouldn't anticipate it being the case either. But because it's not going to be the case, you have to plan for that. The way you plan for that is adding players to your bench that you know will thrive and that you can utilize when their number is called. We need to add more players to the bench like that. And if you add a Chuma and a TJ or a Moses Brown to this team, the Knicks will have addressed their talent situation, addressed their depth situation, given themselves more players on this roster, and have done so at a very, very low cost. And that is exactly the Leon Rose way. Only a matter of time, ladies and gentlemen. Jericho Sims, he will be traded. It'll be a lower level deal, but it will free up the Knicks and a lot of options that they have. And then at that point, it's who do they want to add? You guys know my favorites, but who are yours? When the Knicks actually end up making that trade for Jericho Sims and we have that roster spot open, who would you like to see the Knicks go after? What player would you like to see the Knicks add to this team? And where will that player be coming from? The buyout market? Will they be coming from the Westchester Knicks? Let me know in the comment section below, guys, because honestly, I would love to hear from you. But that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, go ahead and smash that like button, leave a comment below. And of course, guys, please subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knicks fans, take care of yourself, your families, and each other. Peace and love.